Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name's Matt.
My name's Dill, and first off, we want to apologize for being a few days late into this new series that we're doing of recapping each week of award season as we lead into the Academy Awards. But it was for a pretty good reason because we wanted to wait for the official shortlist to come out to kind of talk about each one of these specific categories as well as recap what kind of happened the last week. Because unlike last video, where there was a lot of big awards bodies, it's been a lot of critics groups, and we've had a few major precursors, but nothing overtly major where we had to rush out and talk about them right away.
Absolutely. And, I think it's just best that we come back and talk after we just did our shortlist predictions video, which, gotta say, Dylan, we didn't do too bad.
We didn't. There was obviously some key ones that we probably could have been a little bit more smarter about, like Predator getting so many mentions or some of the films that we left out. But overall, yeah, I think we did pretty well as calling out some of those films that either seemed like they were locks across the board and be like, maybe not so fast, or on the flip side, being like, hey, these are ones that no one's really mentioning. Why don't we give them a shout in this category?
So, okay, before we get into everything, I just want to say that The Secret Agent, I just rewatched it. I still don't like that goddamn movie. I don't like it, but I actually do now think that it has the momentum to get into Best Picture. And if that is the case, if that does happen, to all of the Brazilians out there who are angry at us, um, if The Secret Agent gets in Best Picture, I will do a full video list of my 5 favorite Brazilian films, and it will not include The Secret Agent or I'm Still Here, but it will include a lot of great films. So that's one thing I'll say right now. Secret Agent showed up in a few of the shortlists today as well, which shows that continued momentum for it. It got into casting just as you thought it would. It got into international feature. It did not make it into cinematography, which, despite being a certified Secret Agent hater, it would have deserved a cinematography nomination or mention at the very least. That is a gorgeous looking movie, even if I don't love all the other aspects of it. But it definitely should have shown up there. But you know what showed up on 5 different shortlists here that has kind of blown my mind and has kind of come out of nowhere as like, holy shit, what if this isn't just Neon's number 5? What if this is more of a priority for Neon than No Other Choice? And that's Surat. 5 shortlists: score, cinematography, casting, sound, and international.
And then I want to give a shout to Banjo over in our Discord server. They put together this cool little looking at what awards expert was predicting for these categories. So in the categories of 10, you'll see 10. The categories of 15, you'll see 15, 20, so on. And it'll show which films got in, which films were expected to get in and miss, and which films were, you could call these surprises in each category. Well, before we dive and breaking down each short list, there's one thing I want to bring up, and it's something that's happened the last week. In fact, it happened today as we're recording this, is the Metacritic drop for Avatar Fire and Ash. And I get people had issues with this movie, but how are you giving Avatar Fire and Ash a 61 on Metacritic and The Housemaid currently has a 65? People's Metacritics needs to be checked. You need to get those privileges revoked. No way that Housemaid has a higher one than Fire and Ash. But yeah, like you mentioned, Surat did amazing. And as we'll talk about throughout this video, I think there is a strong case to be made that Surat is no longer Neon number 5 and No Other Choices on the way down. I know there was a heated argument in our Discord, which you can join in the link down below earlier today, about how No Other Choice is doing just fine. It's not missing anything. It's still safe for its Best Picture nomination. To me, that's crazy. I don't really understand those people. But Surat, it's going the way up, and I think we're looking more and more likely every day for Neon getting at least 4, if not 5, in international feature. So why don't we start with that category? Because we have our official 15 contenders here now determined in the best international feature category.
Yeah, I didn't think there were any huge surprises here. I got 12 out of 15 right on my list. No huge surprises here. I think everything that totally should be here, it's here. A Poet was a bit of a shock to not be on the short list, but yeah, like we're not missing any of the contenders that feel like sure things. This is a really Easy category, honestly. I think that the difficulty that we have here is just that question. Can we get five neon movies in? And if not, what's the one that's left out? Or two that are, I mean, it's if two are left out, it's easily Surratt and No Other Choice, because right now, that top three of sentimental value, it was just an accident, and Secret Agent is so tightly locked in. But can Neon get four? Can Neon get five? Or are we going to see something like The Voice of Hindra Jab go in, Left Handed Girl, or The President's Cake?
Yeah, as you've mentioned, this category, I would say in my personal predictions, my top nine in the category all made it through, which is insane to think about, especially with the track record of the shortlist. At least taking out one, maybe not a guaranteed nomination, but at least one film that's on the outside looking in. But yeah, I would say, like you mentioned, A Poet and The Love That Remains would be the two biggest omissions here, but neither of them I was really taking seriously for the nomination. And as we've seen over the last week, is places that do international feature are doing four, if not all five neons in their list. And Sarat continues to show up with these regional critics, not just an international feature. Some places are giving it some score mentions, some are giving it some sound mentions. And as we'll talk about in some other categories here with the shortlist of the Academy Awards, this film just continues to do more and more. And as we said a little bit earlier, I do think this is now above No Other Choice. I've always been the No
I
Other Choice
agree.
doubter here on the channel, but I think that between the regional critics, between the industry that we've heard from so far, the industry is responding more to this film, which from the conversation all year long, it's been Sriracha's the film that people are just going to be like an arm's length away from. It's too much for them, and it seems like this is just their speed.
Well, something that I'm really feeling and coming to terms with more and more is that we really have to take all Cannes films seriously from now on. This is a new era. And beforehand, I'd really believed that even though Cannes films had more weight, I still thought that you sort of had to fit into a more traditional mode to get through to the Oscars. But what we're seeing now is it's not just the zone of interests and the anatomy of a falls and the Honoras or the substance. We're seeing stuff like Surratt, the secret agent, performing extremely well on the short lists. It's not just sentimental value. It's not just it was just an accident. Like all of these big films are doing extremely well. And so I think a big lesson I'm going to take going forward is any of those auteur films, even if it's something like Surratt, where, seeing it, I'm like, that there's no way that this could ever be an Oscar contender because it's so dark and depressing. If it has the critical acclaim, then the passion will follow. And yeah, Surratt has really blown all of my expectations out of the water for that. I never would have expected five shortlist mentions for that movie. Also, would be an extremely deserved score, sound, and casting nominee.
And before we move on to our next category, the thing I want to follow up with what you just said there is during the festival on the ground, you and Arno both talked about how there was buzz for Surratt to possibly be the Palm winner. And I
Mhm.
think with what we're seeing now, if Surratt had won the Palm, I think Surratt, crazy enough, would be a Best Picture nominee with the love that it's getting currently.
Oh,
Where if it
well,
had this hype all year long, it would be right up there in our top seven. That like where the secret agent kindly is finding, or where the secret agent is currently finding itself right now.
but I mean, to be fair, if it was just an accident had not won the Palm, it would not be in a Best
Well,
Picture right now.
it
And
might
so
not, but it could have that secret agent slot
it,
where it
yes,
isn't the top two, but the people just love the movie enough. The industry is giving it what it needs so far, and that's what we're seeing with Neon. Is something that you mentioned earlier on the season. Is they have a new campaign team. They have someone who knows what they're doing in that office now, and we're seeing
yeah.
them reap the benefits. They're pulling the Netflix. They're getting every one of their movies, not just in the picture rates, but in some sort of race in the field. Something that Netflix used to do every year, and as of recently has kind of struggled with.
Yeah. I really feel like the Palme d'Or is the new TIFF People's Choice Award, where whatever wins will get into the Oscars. It just has that undefeatable momentum. And yeah, what we're seeing this year is it's not just the Palme, it's all the other movies that are winning awards are also showing up. Like Sound of Falling got into cinematography and international. Surratt is here. Yes, Secret Agent won two Cannes awards and it's performing extremely well. So I really think that anything that wins an award at Cannes, we now have to take extremely, extremely seriously for the Academy Awards. So the documentary feature category, this is the one that, I mean, we said international had no big misses. Documentary, what the fuck? What happened? What happened here? Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. It's not here. The Tale of Cillian. It's not here. These were two movies that have been getting all of the nominations that they need. They've been getting the buzz that they need. They're not here. And Orwell 2 plus 2 equals 5, which is a huge critics hit. It's been picking up all of those nominations. It's also missing. This is a crazy category. But one thing, the big takeaway I have here is My Undesirable Friends, Part 1, Last Air in Moscow. It's real. It's real. We have a 5.5 hour documentary in here, and with it on the short list, I think it's likely to get the nomination.
And that's the thing is, if it goes on to get the nomination, the front runner, the film that's won the majority of our documentary prizes so far, The Perfect Neighbor, also showed up here on the short list. And now I think we have our 1A and our 1B. Do you go more the highbrow route, or do you go more to the populist appeal here in documentary feature? And I think we're going to see that battle, which doesn't really have an opportunity to face off head to head anywhere besides maybe BAFTA. So I think it will be a thing where we get to Oscar night and you'll have half the community on one side and the other half of the community on the other side, assuming they both go on to get the nomination.
Well, I disagree. I don't think My Undesirable Friends has any chance of winning. I think this is Perfect Neighbor versus Come See Me in the Good Light. I think those two are the ones that will be in battle for a win. And really what it comes down to is one is much more formalist and the other is much more um emotional, like charming. Come See Me in the Good Light is just like it won every audience prize that it possibly could. And it showed up in the song list as we've been saying all year long. But you know what has not shown up in any short list? Now thinking about song, Testament of Van Lee didn't get a single short list. It's dead, dead, dead. It wasn't in score, it wasn't in song. Nothing. Nothing.
I've had my fair share of L's this season. I can gladly wear them on my shoulder, but one of my few W's is from the moment I saw Testament of Van Lee is just in, hey, this it's not happening anywhere. Seyfried is the max for this movie. It would be cool if score happened, but at that time I thought it was ineligible. It is deemed eligible, but no one's going out for it. This movie is just so divisive, and it's like the people who love it do love it, but I'm still a firm believer of the people who love it is a very, very small pocket. And I think the people who are more appalled by it or more distant towards it is the more populist side of reactions to the Testament of Van Lee.
There's not a lot of huge misses here. Of course, we've got Diane Warren, we've got all the expected contenders. I'm still shocked that they go Drive from F1, Not Lose My Mind. That's crazy to me.
It does
What?
suck because that song is such a banger. Putting aside my love of Doja Cat's music itself, that song is so hypnotic, it's so fun, and it is my favorite aspect of what original songs do in movies is it uses the original score as the
Yes.
instrumental and expands upon that. But yeah, they do drive. Of our top 15 from Awards Expert, only three songs missed. Lose My Mind was one of them. Closed by the Sun from Ann Lee, and the other one was Zoo, which I also don't think the original Zootopia song made the shortlist
No,
either.
it didn't.
And coming into that spot is what we said would happen in our shortlist prediction video are songs that no one's thinking about because they're from
Yeah,
random
Billy
movies.
Idol.
They're just attached with a big pop star or a recognizable songwriter. And I mean, Battle of Wallace Island is something that we probably should have considered a little bit more due to the fact that it is a musical about writing songs. But
Yeah, I
no
feel
one's
like
talking
we
about that
didn't
movie.
consider Ballad of Wallace Island because neither of us have seen it.
That's probably a good thing. But yeah, these three songs, they make the short list. They aren't making the nomination because you could say the top seven songs fighting are still here. And now you have to make your decision. Are you doing two centers? Are you doing two Wicked? Are you doing one of each? Or are you saying Wicked's on the best album both? And we're going to get stuff like Come See Me in the Good Light rise up or one of the pop stars of Miley Cyrus or Ed Sheeran kind of take their spots away.
Yeah, I haven't changed my list at all from this. Like, I really still think Come See Me in the Good Light is getting two nominations at the Oscars. It's getting song, it's getting documentary. And then, of course, Diane Warren. Diane Warren, Diane Warren, Diane Warren. And you know where else Diane Warren showed up? Original score. Her influence, man. They can't help it but nominate Diane Warren for everything.
Yeah, score is a very interesting one this year because, as we talked about in our shortlist prediction video, is they typically do some massive snubs, and the only real snub you can really point to is something I know both you and I weren't really predicting, but would be the Testament of Van Lee. It's the
Yeah.
only score in the top, looking here, like the top 14 of awards expert that missed everything else and made it in here, including stuff like A House of Dynamite and Tron Ares, two films that people aren't really talking about much whatsoever. But what we did see get in is what we did say what could happen over in our prediction video is random blockbusters that have
Yeah.
memorable themes find their way in. We get stuff like Captain America Brave New World. We get Wake Up Dead Man showing up here. And hey, Nuremberg, it lives.
Well, okay, I want to talk about Captain America because this pisses me off. You're telling me that in this year, where we get two of the best Marvel scores of all time, we've had 17 years of Marvel movies. And this year, I would say that both Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts have scores on the level of Black Panther. You don't shortlist those two, and you shortlist fucking Captain America Brave New World? What are you talking about? That's insane to me.
I mean, I can't remember much of Brave New World. It came out in February, and it's a film I wasn't a
And it was
huge fan of.
awful.
But I did remember liking the music, but I can't remember a theme now. Where I can remember a Michael Giacchino theme from Fantastic Four. That just goes back to the fact that this
Mhm.
branch hates Michael Giacchino all of a sudden. They gave him his win for Up, and since then, the scores that he should get recognized for, he never shows up. The Batman was something that they snubbed from the long list here,
Yep.
and they do the same with his next superhero installment. So Giacchino is someone who I keep saying makes great work. The Academy just doesn't care. Like the whole Desplat thing, where he never gets the nomination. He should this year because, like we just mentioned in song, none of our major score contenders missed out here, and it's still you have your three, maybe four locks. And what do you do if your fifth slot? Is it F1? Is it Begonia? Is it Marty Supreme? Is it even Surratt with that film rising up? That's
Yeah.
some fun things that we'll have to see in the weeks coming forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. It I'm gonna be absolutely bewildered for weeks about Captain America being on the short list. Because again, like Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, great scores.
What I will say is with this category, our critics groups haven't really helped us because they are pretty overwhelmingly going with Ludwig Göransson for Sinners. And
Yeah.
while I do believe that Ludwig will win his third Oscar, crazy enough, in this category with this year, it's not helping us by giving some variance of other films winning these prizes. Because if Sinners isn't winning, typically it is going to one battle after another, where we're not getting like in years past where you could see a random score win here and there and show like, hey, it has passion, it can rise the ranks, it can get into our five. Where like this year, while F1 may have the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice, it's not winning many critics groups. Marty Supreme, Hamnet, they're doing the same thing. They're showing up, but they're not winning stuff to help us show that these films are real inside this category.
Well, but that's been kind of the thing with every critic group this year. It's been One Battle After Another and Sinners. And those are the only two films winning basically any category.
Well, I think that perfectly leads us into our next category. It's our brand new one to the Oscars Best Casting. And this is another matchup of One Battle After Another or Sinners for the win. In terms of our 10 films that are up for the nomination, awards expert missed out on Jay Kelly and Wake Up Dead Man. Wake Up
Yep.
Dead Man is one of my massive L's from earlier in the season. I said, hey, there's no reason to doubt this movie. It's going to have a big ensemble. Stars doing really well inside their film. And from now, the movie officially releasing on Netflix, the number one complaint with the movie is how miscast a lot of these people are, which
Mila
I I,
Kunis.
I I do agree. What is probably my least favorite Knives Out movie by a mile. So I think the snub here is a just one. And Jay Kelly, I mean Sandler, Clooney, good casting, but I guess it's not enough. The two films to get in are two from Neon, Surratt, Secret Agent, again helping those films rise up the ranks. But my five nominations don't really change from our list here.
I think Jay Kelly missing casting is just showing me what has kind of been apparent for a little bit, which is that Jay Kelly overperformed the hell out of Critics' Choice. And after that, it's just slipping, slipping, slipping. Couldn't even make Best Comedy at the Globes over Blue Moon or Nouvelle Vague. That's crazy to me. And it should have easily made it in here over Weapons, Secret Agent, or Surratt. Like, Surratt making it in here, gotta say, that is the coolest short list mention of all time. Um, if this world was just, Surratt would get a nomination for casting
It
because
could.
My God, it totally. I mean, any of these could. Um, but yeah, I would also say a big takeaway that I have here: Weapons getting into the casting shortlist says to me that Amy Madigan's casting really is enough for them to go for this. I'm just sort of starting to see what they like, what the casting directors gravitate towards. Like we're seeing a lot of unique casting that's really being shouted out here. Um, but yeah, my top five didn't change with this. I feel like we're gonna end up with like a pretty best picture adjacent casting lineup, I think.
What I would love to see is something that I've kind of been banging the drum for with this category and all our talks with it is for it to follow what the Guild does. The Guild does cool things like Surratt. While they don't typically do international movies, they do more unique casting choices like what Surratt and Secret Agent would signify for this category. So I would love for them to throw a bone to one of those two movies. I don't know what you would pluck out from. I guess we have a consensus six because I think you have sentimental value and why I currently still have Hamnet in at my number five slot. But I think that Secret Agent or Surratt, I haven't seen Secret Agent yet, but from what I've heard about how they did the casting, these two sound like great feats of that I hope get some sort of notoriety further than just the shortlist here. Maybe BAFTA can throw them an extra bone.
Well, I think the difference we have in this category is do you still have Wicked in?
I
Because
do.
I do not whatsoever have Wicked in.
But we talk about weakness from year to year. Wicked is a film that's on the downward trajectory, but it does pick up another shortlist mention over makeup and hairstyling, where kind of weirdly enough, Weapons gets into casting, but it misses out here in the makeup and hairstyling. Only the top four, which I feel like is the consensus four from everyone predicting this category: Frankenstein, Wicked, Sinners, Smashing Machine. They make the shortlist. Everything else in the top 10 blanks. It's on the way out.
Really, everything else in the top 10. Because to me, Kokuho and One Battle After Another felt really obvious here.
I guess the issue of Coco was the fact that not many people probably know what that movie is yet, but I do agree after you mentioned it in our prediction video the other day, I moved it up into my top 10 because you made a great case for it. And its appearance on the international feature shortlist shows that people are watching and are talking about this movie. But yeah, Weapons, 28 years later, Begonia, Blue Moon, Wolfman, and Hamnet all miss here for the Alto Knights, Kokohu, Marty Supreme, Nuremberg, One Battle After Another, and The Ugly Stepsister. So they still find their horror movies with The Ugly Stepsister. One Battle
I
After
was gonna
Another
say, yeah.
overperforms once again. I think it got every possible shortlist it could have. And then we see fun things like Nuremberg and Marty Supreme, and The Alto Knights is the typical, why the hell is this movie here? No one saw it because the makeup and hairstyling branch is cool. They're base. They'll do their own thing. All they care about is the work inside the movie.
Yeah, Alto Knights is a weird mention, but it's very interesting that we did still get horror movies on here, even though we skipped out on 28 Years Later, which I remember a few weeks ago, I think Critics' Choice, you'd said that 28 Years Later is the most shortlist snub movie of all time, and you were right. So I am really shocked that Weapons didn't make it, but Ugly Stepsister is definitely a really cool mention.
And that's what we will have to determine going here forward is for our fifth slot. Like I mentioned, the four locks all showed up. And now it's just what is number five? Is it going with the horror work of The Ugly Stepsister? Is it with the best picture player of One Battle After Another? Is it with probably the most showy work of Kokohu? You kind of have to make your pick and make your claim because no one else is really going to help us out because probably like what we've seen with the critics is they will throw bones to stuff like 28 years later. They will do weapons. They'll throw something out for a film that's not even here. It's just because it's the film that fits with the rest of their nominations at that branch or
Yeah.
at that critics group.
Also, shout out to the fact that Marty Supreme got on here for making Timothy Chalamet ugly.
Yeah. Hey, this is hairstyling. People forget it's makeup and hairstyling. Mario Supreme has a lot of hairstyling.
Well,
Uh,
it's not just that, but it's like you're in close-ups on Timothy Chalamet, and they like put acne scars all over his face,
yeah.
and like you see every single pore. Um, I really feel like it's a good mention. I wouldn't have expected it, and Nuremberg being here as well. I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get Nuremberg being here, but I guess that they did enough on Russell Crowe.
I mean, Russell Crowe talked about how he added weight, so it's not even like they put him in a fat suit. So Yeah, I don't get the Nuremberg one. I guess maybe that's Hair as well, because we talked about in years past. Hair gets you a shortlist mention, but it doesn't get you the nomination. And maybe I'm misremembering and Nuremberg has more than what we are thinking of, but all I can think of is maybe like period hair pieces. But again, they're all wearing hats the whole time, so you're not even looking at their hair.
So I want to talk about visual effects because this has one of the funniest what the fuck mentions of any of the short lists. Because the electric state made it here. What? Huh? How'd that
Yeah,
happen?
I wouldn't even assumed it was eligible. I would have assumed that was a Netflix only, like The Gray Man, not even getting sent to theaters. But I guess they sent it to something,
They
and it's
did. They
here.
sent it. They did a qualifying run for it. Um, excuse me, but the big takeaway that I have here is Sinners makes the visual effects shortlist. It escapes the fate that Oppenheimer and Everything Ever All at Once fell to, which were both films that had picked up so many critic group mentions for visual effects and then didn't make the shortlist. And I think that Sinners, because it's here, it gets the nomination. Am I happy about that? No. No, it does not deserve a visual
You
effects
can't
shortlist
be
because the
mad at.
only work is that it's two Michael B. Jordans. You know
That's a
what other
lot.
film did that 15 years ago? The Social Network, and it did it better. So, ah, I don't see why this has to be a nominee, but it's here, so it will be. I'd love to see Tron Ares get the nomination because goddamn, that is great visual effects work.
Yeah, Tron hit every shortlist it could have. We talked about how will people respond to this movie? Will they care after it being a box office flop? And they were like, yeah, it made song, it made score, it made visual effects. I'm pretty sure it made sound as well, which we'll get to that here in a few
No, it
minutes.
didn't
And
make sound.
oh, it didn't make sound. Okay. But I guess here for visual effects, my big takeaway is the fact that this is probably the first time in the category's existence since the MCU has become a thing that not a single Marvel movie made this. Fantastic Four out, Thunderbolts out. Captain America couldn't even pair it with its original score mention. Instead, we do have Superman. This is my category where I take the biggest L's. I missed out on How to Train Your Dragon. I missed out with not having Superman and Frankenstein in. I told you take out Lost Bus. I mean, I did have you bring in Sean Ares in its spot, so it was an even trade. But you had Lost Bus originally, so for me, I do lose out on one of my potential Oscar nominations with the Fantastic Four. So now I have to move a new movie up into my fifth slot, and I think I might have to put in Superman after all the shit I talked about DC and how they never do stuff. They typically don't even make the short list. So the fact that Superman is on the short list, I think gives me enough reason to put it into my fifth slot with Frankenstein being my first movie out.
Well, and Superman did extremely well. It also got into the sound shortlist. So it's clearly performing well. And it didn't make score, but I was told that it's ineligible for that. So yeah, that's why it didn't make that one. But I'd love to talk about sound because Surratt making the shortlist tells me I think that legitimately can get a nomination.
And I think a spot opened up for it because Warfare, just like
Hmm.
Civil War, just like we talked about in the video, missed out on the sound category. And this is something that critics groups have been doing in spurts, is giving some love to Warfare. And just like Civil War last year, I don't know what the issue is. The Sound Guild hates Alex Garland, I guess, because it's not here. They put in Superman. Springsteen makes it at the 10th slot. Shout out to the guy that you know that worked on that movie.
Yeah, yeah, Todd. But I don't see Springsteen making it. I think Springsteen is like very lucky to be shortlisted here. But yeah, I feel like without Warfare, Surratt, I think is coming for a nomination.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you have F1, you have One Battle, you have Sinners. Those are probably comfortably in there. You would think Avatar and Wicked should be there, but with the diminishing returns year after year for sequels, you could see one of them slip out. And I would say Surat is the top of those next movies to slip in. You could say maybe Frankenstein, maybe Mission Impossible repeat, Superman to pair of visual effects, but I would go with Surat. And it's just, do you take out Wicked or do you take out Avatar?
And over in Best Cinematography, I'd love to hear what missed. But before we talk about that, some of my big surprises here. Song Sung Blue? What? What?
I haven't
Also,
seen it yet, but
shout out to
the trailer
you,
looks
Die My
fun.
Love.
I can get a W for that. I didn't even have it in my predictions, but that was my what was it, January or March cinematography winner. What a year! What a year it's been on a full circle moment with that.
Hey, it's great cinematography. If nothing else about that movie, cinematography, gorgeous. It looks fantastic. The biggest miss here is The Secret Agent, though. which again, I'm not a fan of that movie. It looks great and it should have been here.
So going off of awards expert, this is a category where you could have anywhere between 10 and 20. So looking at what missed out of the top 20 would be The Testament of Anne Lee, No Other Choice, Avatar, Fire and Ash, and Jay Kelly. Those would be the ones if you kept it to 15. If you extend it out to 20, then it would be The Secret Agent and 28 Years Later, with the two films coming in being Sarat and Song Sung Blue. So again, no real top tier contenders really missing out there. Some people out there who I know are still No Other Choice Best Picture believers say, hey, this is a category where you can get an extra nomination, and that is now officially dead. Sad to see Avatar miss out on a long list of 18 films, though. Say what you want about it repeating The Way of Water, being a rehash of some plot points. It's still a beautiful looking movie, and that missing out, that one hurts.
I'm most shocked, honestly, sentimental value being here. That's a very interesting show of strength. That's not a nomination. That's not a shortlist mention that that movie needed whatsoever, and yet it's here. So this is an interesting list. I mean, we've got our usual suspects: One Battle After Another, Sinners, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Train Dreams, and then we've got some like really cool international contenders on here too. Sound of Falling, Surat, Sentimental Value, Nouvelle Vague, but no Secret Agent, and no It Was Just an Accident, which also missed casting. What's your takeaway from that?
I would say this week has shown that it was just an accident. I don't know if it's going to prosper to the heights that I was hoping it would do after its rupturous first week of getting Jafar Panahi so many wins in both director and screenplay. I've seen from people talking in our Discord that it was just an accident is ineligible for casting because it doesn't technically have a casting director. Like that year where PTA was ineligible for cinematographer for whatever movie it was because there was no, I think it was Phantom Threat because there was no listed cinematographer. Where like someone's still shooting it, someone's still casting it, but no one's listed. But I mean, Secret Agent missing out here, I think does stink because Neon has been pushing that for that movie. Again, I haven't seen it yet. I really do want to see it. I'm hoping that I get to see it before the year ends. But from what I've seen so far, from how you talked about, how other people have talked about it, from the Q&As that have happened, it seems like it's good work. So for it to miss here after overperforming in other places, rising to the ranks of Best Picture is interesting. But I guess that's the faults of having an 18 or a 10 to 20 list category is you have random stuff, and you can kind of argue what would be 19 and 20 if it was going out to 20. Would it be like Avatar and Secret Agent? Would it be something like Jay Kelly and No Other Choice or The Testament of Anne Lee? We don't really know.
Yeah, it's interesting to have a shortlist that can kind of change how many there are. I don't know why they just don't have a set number. You got to wonder what the threshold is here to get a
I
mention.
I think it's a percentage of votes, but I don't know what that percentage of votes quantifies as. So like I don't
Hmm.
know if it's like 50% or not 50%, if it's like 30% or 40% or whatnot. I don't really know. But I think with cinematography, what we have seen so far is just Sinners has dominated every regional critic group. And I think that we are on our way to potentially a Sinners sweep. But this doesn't feel like the type of movie that would sweep all the major guilds with like BSC and ASC. So I
No,
feel like something could overtake it, but
one
nothing has
battle.
shown itself as being the number two. One Battle was what I would assume would be doing the critic sweep that we've had so far, but it's kind of struggling to win cinematography prizes outside of some
It's
critics
won a
groups here and there.
few critics prizes, but Sinners has mostly picked up everything. So the next big thing that happened this week is the Costume Designers Guild Prize. And we've got nominations for that. Some of my big takeaways here: Marty Supreme again fails to get any costume mentions, even in a period category that contained Downton Abbey. And yeah, it had Downton Abbey in it. And they didn't go for Marty Supreme. So right now, I think that we're solidifying what the top five for costumes is. And it's looking more and more likely that it's Frankenstein, Hamnet, Hedda, Sinners, and Wicked for Good.
And I would agree there because looking here, Hedda does get in for period film, but in addition to Mari Supreme missing out once again, Kiss of the Spider Woman misses out here, which after it had a pretty good CCA mention in this category, immediately misses out the Costume Designer Guild. And really, there's not another film out there you can consider. Sure, there's one battle after another. Colleen Atwood, she could get in for here, but it is contemporary. And we see time and time again, regardless of your status inside of Best Picture, they do not want to go out for contemporary costumes. And I think if one battle did get into costumes, that's just a sign that this film is a film unlike anything that we have seen in the last few years, even bigger than Oppenheimer, even bigger than Everything Everywhere. But I think Hedda is getting what it needs to be that fifth slot here at the end of the day.
I mean, One Battle would deserve a costume nomination far more than Oppenheimer did.
That is true. It would. It's got some very memorable costumes, but again, I think the five other movies here are stronger top to bottom. While I really like two specific costumes in one battle, I would still say the work as a whole inside of something like Hedda or Sinners or Wicked for Good is more memorable and more eye-popping. But before we move away from the Costume Designer Guild, I want to give a shout out. I'm going to bang the drum for Avatar Fire and Ash wherever I can. Showing up in sci-fi fantasy costumes. There's not much clothing, but the clothing that does cover the various tribes, I think is really great work and helps to separate the various Na'vi clans from the fire to the sky to the water, the Metcaina to the forest. You can tell instantaneously who is who just from what they look like. And I wish that was something that the Avatar movies could get nominated for, because especially this year, we have an open fifth slot. Give it to Avatar, give it something new, but it's not going to happen.
Well, I also want to shout out because you've been really on How to Train Your Dragon all year. It makes the guild. After a disastrous day of making zero shortlists, um, it is at the Costume Designers Guild. So you win that.
I guess that's a win. I think my real sign for How to Train Your Dragon not doing well at the short list is the fact that Universal has an FYC page, and the only movie on their FYC page is Wicked. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
they're
look like
not
they're
putting
even
anything behind.
attempting to do anything for How to Train Your Dragon, but it is good work. So it shows up here, and this will probably be the last place it shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guess so. And the last big thing that we've had this past week is the USC Scripter Prize, which, oof, oof. If nothing else has killed No Other Choice this week, it's the fucking USC Scripter. Because the USC Scripter went for One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Train Dreams, Frankenstein, all four expected. Begonia was ineligible. But instead of going for No Other Choice, they went with Peter Hujar's Day, which is crazy. Crazy that they skipped over No Other Choice for that. So more and more, No Other Choice is just plummeting. Absolutely plummeting, and it doesn't deserve that. It's a great movie. What is happening?
I really like No Other Choice. I think its screenplay is great, but I will say, going back to the fact that multiple screenwriters got banned from WGA, this seems like
But
it
this
could
isn't
be a
WGA.
correlation to that, though.
This is the University of Southern California. What the fuck do they care about Park
They're still
Chan-wook and
writers.
John McKellar getting
If they're
that?
doing a writing based award, they might be like, "Hey, you broke this rule. The big
No.
boys, the top dogs said fuck you. We'll say fuck you too." But was it eligible? Begonia was ineligible. I don't know why Begonia was ineligible. Maybe No Other Choice
Um,
was too.
Well, because USC Scripter is specifically chosen by a group of writers who primarily work in novels and prose. And so the award is specifically for movies adapted from books and adapted
Hmm.
from a print source.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
because of that, Begonia is based on a movie, which means I think Coda was also, let me just check. Yeah, Coda was ineligible because it was based on a movie. And so Begonia would not be eligible, but No Other Choice was based on a book. So it should have been
Okay.
eligible.
So I guess my question comes from, obviously No Other Choice is a big miss, but like what else could have been this fifth slot instead of plucking Peter Hujal's Day from like random 5 yards
Oh,
away?
actually, you know what? I'm looking through stuff, and I think USC might be limited to English language films. I'm not seeing any films that have been nominated for USC Scripter that are not American.
Well, then I guess neither of our reactions there really apply.
Yeah.
It's not a fuck you from the WGA, and it's not a big miss, but still, Peter Hujar's Day comes from like out of nowhere. I still wonder what could have been another option of adaptation from a book that was eligible. I guess Wicked for Good. It's
Yeah.
from the Wicked
Wi-
novel.
Uh, I guess it could be, but I think that's much more specifically from the play So
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it too seriously. But yeah, looking back again, Emilia Perez didn't get nominated for USC. So now saying this, I really don't think it's as big a deal as I thought for No Other Choice. But still, No Other Choice had a bad day.
And I guess our final thing to talk about, because as we mentioned, this past weekend has been a lot of regional critics, and we kind of sprinkled our thoughts about who's been doing well and who hasn't throughout our various shortlist mentions. But if you care, the Astros, the HCA, gave their tech and craft winners, and nothing here is overtly surprising. Centers basically won everywhere it could. Frankenstein cleaned up with the three categories you expected to clean up with, and one battle after another takes editing. That's basically the real takeaway there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, Dylan. I have not looked at those awards yet.
There's nothing surprising here. It's exactly what you think would win in every category, with the exception of visual effects, because Avatar was not nominated because they hadn't seen it, and they went with Wicked for Good.
That's crazy to me.
But the
But
other nominees were Superman, Jurassic World, How to Train Your Dragon, Frankenstein, and Black Phone 2. So, like, it's not even like the real
okay,
contenders
but
there either.
what's the rush to get these awards out? Like, if you haven't seen Avatar,
Yeah, you haven't seen
maybe
Avatar.
maybe
And
don't finish your list yet if you haven't seen it.
I guess here's the takeaway from visual effects is the fact that, or I guess from the HCA craft award so far, it's the fact that they love Sinners. They've given Sinners almost everything. They didn't even nominate Sinners in visual effects. So maybe that's a point to you for Sinners in visual effects not happening, is Sinners' biggest body of support couldn't even nominate it in that category.
That's shocking to me because the Oscars are going to do it.
And they did Black Phone too.
Yikes. Yikes. Big yikes. So that's going to bring us to the end of today's video. And we're not going to be doing another one of these recaps until after the Critics' Choice Awards, but we have plenty of stuff in store in the meantime, including predictions for Critics' Choice Award winners, as well as my annual year beginning list of all of the movies to look forward to for next year. And we're going to be putting out our annual top 10 video in that time. So we might not have recap stuff until after the Critics' Choice Awards, but we have plenty of videos coming down the pipeline very soon. As always, my name's Matt.
My name's Dill, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.